Hello y'all, this is Space. Welcome to my channel. Today we'll be streaming some testing of Ship 28. Ship 28 is now testing, and it seems like the clouds have been clearing up for today's spin prime or anything. But we are definitely gonna do some sort of test today. Also, pad B. Awaiting either a spin prime test or a cryogenic test, which will fill the vehicle up with cryogenic fluids. A spin prime is most likely because they've done cryogenic tests before, but even if they've done it, sometimes they do cryogenic tests first before the spin prime or pre-burner. Not get a pre-burner test, spin prime, cryogenic, or even possible stack fire test. Anything's possible. But the most likely things are a spin prime or a cryogenic test. Because this vehicle just rolled out here, and SpaceX does progression tests. They do cryogenic, spin prime, pre-burner, and then stack fire. There's some venting from ship 28. That's normal. Because vehicle, vents out a lot. Here's a better view. You can see the frost ring starting to grow way more. That's some good signs. The frost ring will get to the maximum LOX section, and methane section will fill a little bit, and either a pre-burner or a spin prime or just cryo with no ignition source. There is an ignition source, but it will not ignite and start the engine, but we'll have an ignition source, which is the pre-burner or the spin prime. Now, if we do have if we don't have a cryogenic test, then the most likely things are a pre-burner or a spin prime. The most likely thing is a spin prime for this test, because, like I said, the vehicle was just rolled out here. So, it needs to progress in tests and see if it's actually reliable. I love these views. Credits to NSF. I'm gonna credit them in my chat description now, just because of how much I support them. credits the NSF. I'm gonna credit them in my chat description now, just because. Check for any EAs now. And either pre-burn it or spin. Alright, I'm back. Let me check Twitter to see if SpaceX will say that they're doing this. Alright. So coming close to the spin prime test. What was that? I heard I swear I just heard a popping sound. If it's just in me or I'm going crazy, I don't know. But yeah, this is my second starbase testing. We're actually third because of start from flight test. This is my third starbase testing or video feed of starbase. So yeah, third video. And with honor, I always had this funny feeling about Ship 28 going into orbit, and it will go into orbit. And I have a feeling everything will go successful. No venting. There'll be a word as just occasional venting. There was some clouds and it cleared up, thankfully. So now we're gonna have some more beautiful shots of Ship 28 stack firing, or I mean spin priming, or pre-burner. Now, when you see it from that camera, there will be water deluge, and I'll show that, and then I'll show two views of the test, just to get that sincere view. That was a loud one. here's the view from the little launch pad. You see Starship right here. Just over there, my pad B, waiting for spin prep test or pre-burn. I just said something. Y'all didn't want to figure out there was a venting inside the ship. When we finish that launch load, then we'll get closer and closer to the stack fire. You can barely see it, but a great view of the quick disconnect and defrost on ship 28. It looks like loading on the vehicle stopped. Oh no! No! Glug glug glug. The glug 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 glug. Dee, wee, 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 wee.
everything right now. They could. Now, that's a good question because let's remember, we can recap this as well, that both Booster 10 and Ship 28 have had cryo tests at the Masses test sites. Do we know how many cryos they had on Ship 28, Ryan?
Two.
Two.
One on July 28th and the other one on August 3rd.
Technically, this is another one. It's not a full one, though, is it? If it's a spin prime test, if they go for a spin prime. We're hoping, that's what we don't know. That's the important thing to say. We just don't know. You never do know. SpaceX don't put a press release out in the morning and say, right, we'll do some testing today. This is what we're going to try and do. They never do that. Never have, never will. But we can basically hope. And the best hope we can get is a spin prime, because we know it will be a static fire test because there's been no notice. So that's how we kind of work these things. And it's getting quite frosty now, isn't it, Alex?
Yeah, so you can see there's some kind of thin frost above the thick frost line. So you can sort of distinguish two types of frost there. You see like a thick frost with a lot of condensation coming out of it, and then like a thinner kind of layer of frost right above it around the tank, and even all the way up to the methane tank, I think. And that is mainly because the tanks get cold, and so the rest of the whole thing just gets a lot colder. We've also seen these sort of ventings from the liquid oxygen tank coming out. That lowers the pressure here and there, and lowering the pressure at same volume and everything, that sometimes means the temperature also goes down. It's called the adiabatic effect or something like that. Anyways, yeah, adiabatic cooling, I think it is the name. But definitely you can see there those vents, like the one that we just saw. Probably, what's the word? They basically.
Give us the word in Spanish and I'll translate it on Google Translate for you.
No, but I don't even have it in Spanish. It's just that I'm trying to come up with a right word here. That it just allows that kind of effect to happen. It allows the tank to get colder and that thin frost to appear. And so that is basically what we're seeing here, that kind of effect. And again, where the thick frost is located, that's where the actual propellant, that's where the fluid, the liquid is located, but the rest is gas. So it's frosty just because the tank is cold.
Yeah, and usually there's a lot of moisture in the air down in Boca Chica there, which kind of helps to put more frost on the tank than there actually is cryo, because the entire tank, as you said, is cold, and if there's a lot of moisture in the air, that'll just freeze when it hits the tank. So
Cool question here about the best coast, which is the East Coast. Outdoorsman Show. These usernames are so long. It's like when it's a long username, it cuts it in half on our panel. So I'm like reading it like an idiot, but it's because it's cut in half, so it's hard to read them. Do we know if there's any news on the orbital launch table for Florida and when we could see the steel plate at 39A? I can answer part of that by saying that the orbital launch mount for 39A is inside Hangar M at KSC. It's an area of KSC you can't really go and take a photograph from because it's right deep inside a restricted area. But that's where it's actually housed right now. It's complete. It's been complete for a while. As we know, 39A has been kind of mothballed, if that's the right word for it. All these paused for about a year.
on hold.
Yeah,
on hold is a better way to put it.
On hold. It's about a year, but it's fine. Basically, they obviously taking the route which makes complete sense that Starbase will learn a lot of things about how the launch pad, the ground zero, stage zero I should say, stage zero works before they then implement that onto 39A to save them time. So 39A's tower's there, it's done, the legs are there, they're just going to put, they're going to put the orbital launch mount on top and they'll roll it down the crawl away and we'll see it, we'll pass our cameras on Space Coast Live. As far as the steel plate goes, that's an interesting one because 39A's got a flame trench, but that's for the former Apollo and Shuttle pad, which is where Falcon 9 Dragon and Falcon Heavy launched from. But they don't have a flame trench at the 39A for Starship Tower. So do we think, let's start with Alex, do we think we'll have a steel plate installed to basically say, well, it worked at Starbase for us, it worked really well, let's have a steel plate to 39A as well?
Yeah, I think the concept at least worked, the initial concept. They could improve upon it. There's probably lots of room to improve things here and there, especially once they get the Raptor 3 engine right and they get more thrust out of that rocket. Then it's probably gonna need a lot more stuff to counteract that heat and pressure. But you know, and so 39A could be used definitely to test an improved version of the current system. I don't really like I kind of see that kind of thing. We might see also a new improved foundation as well at 39A, because I don't think it has the new one that we see here at the OLM at Starbase. So we could also see probably a lot of foundation work for that plate going on there. So definitely a lot of room to improve upon the one at Starbase, and we might see 39A getting an improved version of the plate.
Nice. And you know my favourite thing about 39A, Alex, don't you? Because you mentioned it to me.
Here
the chopsticks on Mechazilla's system at Starbase are longer than the ones at 39A. The chopsticks are installed on the tower. They're shorter chopsticks. And that's because they were too long. The ones at Starbase didn't...
I don't think people have the Starship flight test.
Oh.
After the first launch, obviously, a lot of damage to the pad, a lot of changes they had to make.
When it gets scrapped. By the way,
they're the perfect length in order to pick up a ship and a booster right at the end of them and place it dead center on the mount. So they're exactly the length they need to be. I think they should have given themselves a little more room to play with, but that's just me. So I'm not an engineer.
And also, we have seen them building another set of chopsticks, because Robert Strode has another set of chopsticks, and it is also shorter than the ones at Starbase. So we definitely saw with those that it's just probably going to be that way from here on. And now that I mentioned Robert Strode, we were also talking before about the second launch pad at Starbase. That's going to come from all of the tower sections that we saw at Robert Strode being built for a third tower. That third tower is going to be at Starbase, and we saw the first section already being moved onto a barge for transport here, so that's going to be exciting.
Very nice. Lots of questions. I'm trying to get the ones which are more related towards Starship. There's quite a few people asking things which are more about Mars and whatever, which we're a long way off yet. A long way off Mars. It's something where this is HLS. Basically, they want to get Starship ready for their Starlink launches, get it operational. Then they'll move really deep into the HLS commitments, because that does require them to be on point with the refilling on orbit. So there'll be lots of demonstrations on that. In fact, Ship 28 has got a demonstration related to that. It's not going to be two ships launching, or it won't be Hopper launch with a gas can, anything like that. It'll be an internal header tank to main tank transfer, which will be part of their refilling process. Do any of you want to talk a little bit more about what SpaceX has said about that? Because they did mention that Ship 28 was going to have a... In fact, I think it was a NASA slide that Marcia Smith tweeted from NASA saying that Ship 28's got a demonstration. Alex, do you want to have a go at that?
Yeah, I think at one point NASA said that it is something that they haven't still... Because I think it was Michael Sheets that tried to get more information about what that meant from the slides, and I think he got the word back from NASA that they're still kind of looking if that's going to be the case for the next flight. I seem to remember as well that at one point even the second flight was going to have that kind of objective, but it might be that they're just, you know, doing some kind of wait and see situation, whether the vehicle is ready to do such a test or not. I'm more hopeful that maybe Ship 28 is going to be the one that's reaching that ballistic trajectory and, you know, going into space and coasting and everything. In that case, then we might see that test happening, but we'll see.
Yeah, actually, just for a point of clarification, Ricky Nixon actually asked this: did IFT-3 become a full orbital flight?
We don't really know.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Ryan, do you want to go on about that? Because it is...
Well, yeah, so the thing is, as Alex said, we don't really know, but it could be. My assumption is going to be no, simply because they haven't actually done their full suborbital trajectory yet. And doing just the suborbital trajectory is actually it's a lot safer than doing a orbital flight, because as soon as you shut off the ship's engines, you are on a trajectory to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere no matter what. If you go to orbit, then you have to perform a deorbit burn, and you need to be confident enough that you can safely, securely put the ship down where you want it, rather than have it come down in a place you don't want it. So I think they'll stick with the suborbital trajectory for now. And yeah, I think they'll stick with that going forward. Well, at least for this flight, but we'll see later flights now.
Yeah, and a thing that I should say, because I've seen a lot of people getting confused with certain communications permits and things like that. I think they misinterpret what they say, because it says something along the lines of like it's gonna do a powered return flight or something to Pacific Ocean. There was another one saying the Indian Ocean or something like it. That's what it's been saying for the longest time, like ever since the first permit came out for communications for Starlinks on ships. And so I don't think that really means that it's gonna go into an orbit. I don't really think that just because it is propellant transfer or things like that, it's gonna need to be in orbit. I think the ballistic trajectory, that 1 hour coast phase, is probably good enough to test that thing. So I don't really think it is precisely needed, and I don't really think the documentation really says anything precisely about it being either the ballistic trajectory or an orbital trajectory. It just says what it says, and that's pretty much it.
Nice. Quick one, thanks again. It always impressed me, the people who are just willing to support us, and it's just like, you know, it really is. I can't emphasize it enough. We really do appreciate it. It allows us to do a lot more things, to bring more coverage to you fun folk about Starship, which is always great. Charles has gifted 5 Red Team memberships, and Methane Man has gifted 10 Red Team memberships. That's 15 new members who got for free a month of Red Team memberships. Not only just you get your name in chat, it's not one of those things where you just get your name in highlights in chat. You actually get more content. There's actually a membership area on your YouTube channel you'll see from us where we put daily content in there, and all cool stuff like photographs and videos and behind the scenes and things like that. It's a really cool area. So that's a cool thing you've got, thanks to those two people, Charles and Methane Man. So if you do get a membership and you think, oh, I've got a membership, where'd that come from? Just say thanks in chat, because it's nice to say thank you for a free thing, especially over Christmas. Looking at other questions. Oh, actually, a question from Memora Jono, who asks, when are we going to see the IFT3 patch? If you talk about the NSF version, that is in work. That's all I can say. I'm not allowed to say too much because I'm a terrible leaker. But as you can imagine, with our 1 and 2 patches, Pauline does amazing work with them. And without saying too much, expect amazing work for IFT3. So that's going to be coming up hopefully soon, because let's face it, the way this is progressing, with Ship 28 out there and already doing this testing, and Booster 10 probably not being too far behind, especially with no damage to the pad compared to the first flight, between the first and second flights, then there's a very good chance that we might be seeing a launch, a realistic launch, in either late January or early February. I mean, it might slip a bit more than that, but that's what we're talking about now. We're talking about weeks, not, you know, many months or anything like that. We're not talking about them repairing a whole dug all the way halfway to China from the Boost 7 launch. So this is really good progress, and it's pretty encouraging that we're going to have a very eventful 2024. Let's face it. Ryan will be able to talk a little bit more about this. That just this morning we put out a time lapse from one of our cameras showing the high bay, and it was Booster 13 being prepared. So we're on Booster 10 for next flight, but Booster 13 was being prepared. What were they doing in Booster 13, Ryan?
They were stacking. They were finishing stacking the LOX tanks. So Booster 13 started stacking all the way back in. If I can check my spreadsheet here. Let's see here. Booster 13. Where are you? All the way back on September 5th. They stacked most of that LOX tank pretty quickly, and then it sat on the right turntable in Mega Bay for a while, because back in like late September they scrapped its aft section. We do not know why they scrapped it, but they did, so they had to build a new one. They also scrapped like booster 14s along with it, and I think even booster 15s as well. So they had to build a new one, which those can take like 2-3 months to build because they're pretty complicated. So that finally rolled into the Mega Bay yesterday, and then last night they stacked it onto the left turntable, and hopefully soon they'll get started on the methane tank. Hopefully booster 13 might be fully stacked by the end of the year. That's a hope. So it'll be cool to see.
Cool. Speaking of future vehicles, a complete segue into a question I just saw from Longhair 2012 Gaming Again. Good question, so I'm going to ask it again. You don't all get one question each. You get questions if you ask a good question. When are Ship 29 and Ship 30 going to get their cryo? Now, that's interesting because Masses is in play, and that kind of it almost goes advanced to the next vehicles. Where are we with the vehicles right now, Ryan? Ship 29. I've got a funny feeling Ship 29's already had a cryo.
Ship 29's already had 3.
Woo! There we go.
All over at Massey's, yes. Ship 29 had 3 cryos near the end of September, early October, and then it was rolled back to the garden in mid-October. They did some work on it while it was sitting in the rocket garden. Then it's now in the high bay getting pre-flight work done to it as well as tiling work. Ship 30 has not had its cryo yet. We are waiting to see when they will put that on the ship thrust puck stand, or what do you want to call it? Thrust ram stand, and roll it out to Massey's to get its cryo. And hopefully joining it will be B12, which is supposed to be its other half. Or
nice.
Supposed other half at this rate, because who knows with SpaceX and vehicle assignments these days.
Actually, Ryan, I think you wrote an article explaining. Someone asked me this morning in chat, just regular chat, which ships are going to go with which boosters, and I went, well, we've got an article on site which you can read from Ryan, where it explains the future pairings coming up. So I'm going to spam chat. I want to cheer myself up with some spamming. Here we go. Spam chat. Nightbot doesn't care.
You're once a stream spam there, Chris.
Yeah, well, when you got the power to do it, it's just kind of fun to abuse it. So that's what I've done. Yeah, but actually, to be fair, that is a good read. If you're hanging around and you're thinking, well, this is Ship 28, that's interesting, but what about the future ships? We actually just showed them there on screen earlier in the high bay. And the interesting thing was Ship 26 was like poking his head around the corner. Can we show that again, Jay, just for a second? There we go. Ship 26, don't you forget about me. Just sat around the corner, getting ready to be scrapped. Scrap it, SpaceX.
Well, SpaceX hasn't forgotten about it because they were doing some weird, interesting stuff to it. They were,
Is that venting near the header tanks? I think I'm seeing venting from the new header tank vents.
That looks like venting from the header tanks. Yes.
Oh, Alex, you know what, Alex? You're going to have to get very close to interrupting me if we get close to some kind of test, because you know me, I'll go on a ramble for about 5 minutes and you'll have to say, Chris, stop, it's happening.
Yeah, I'm seeing that venting right now coming off.
What does that suggest? What does that suggest? I'll come back to the future ships, but what does that suggest right now as far as where we are in any potential countdown?
That they're probably loading the header tanks. So normally I don't really know if suborbital tank farm activity, the way that they load the ships here at the suborbital pads are the same way that they load during a orbital flight, right? But when they do it for when it is fully stacked, is they load first the main tanks and then the header tanks. So this could mean that if they're now loading the header tanks, we're probably approaching the last few minutes of whatever countdown we're seeing here for today's test, because usually that's how it goes for when it is fully stacked. In fully stacked configuration, they load first the main tanks and then the headers go at the end, sort of towards the final few it's the final few 20 minutes of the count, but it takes maybe about 10 minutes to load the header tanks.
Good.
And by the time the event, it's probable that they are already at least mostly full. So we could be really, really close to a test.
That works. Yeah, the point I was making about the high bay was pretty much backing up what we were saying earlier, that 2024, but again, things can go wrong, but if everything does go pretty much right, there's every potential, I'm going to ask this question to chat as well, of a certain amount of launches in 2024. What's our guess, boys and girls? I'm going to go with Alex and Ryan, but in chat, do mention how many you think, how many Starship launches there will be from Starbase in 2024. I am going to start by saying 5. Ryan?
4 to 5. It's going to be my answer for a while.
Alex?
Yeah,
I will say 5 is like the upper bound. Anything more than that is very unlikely, in my opinion.
I'm going to read this out. Interrupt me, Alex, if anything happens. 5, 6, 4, 8, 5, 5, 5, 4, 6, 5, 5, 6, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 4, 6. Everyone's in agreement here. 5s and 5s and 5s and 5s. A 7 from long hair. Oh, that's interesting. That's ambitious. Lots of 5s. An 8 from... Hang on now, I've just seen a 10. Ronald Hines thinks there's going to be 10 launches from Starbase in 2024. 1, they'll have to ask for permission for that. And 2, if that happens, then wow, game on. Because suddenly we've gone from a delay between Booster 7 and Booster 9 of like 6 months between launches, between the 2 launches, right?
Well, yeah, last one was 7 between Flight 2, but yeah.
So if they bring it down to have 10 launches in 2024, that's some ambitious cadence increase, isn't it? Ross says 24. Right, we're getting silly ones now, Ross. Come on, 24 launches in 2024. I don't think so. But yeah, it's a really encouraging point. And if they can get 5, let's say 5, right? They can get 5 launches off in 2024. That just shows the curve. I remember that SpaceX video they put out where they showed their launch cadence over the years, where it's like a graphic of launches going off. Someone will find it for me and I'll put it into chat. And basically by the end of the video, there's just rockets firing off like missiles, because that's how they increase their flight cadence with Falcon 9. And the boosters are coming back as well. That was cool. They showed the animations of the boosters returning to drone ships and to LZ landings, and I thought, well, that really just show how they basically just found their feet on Falcon 9 cadence and Falcon Heavy as well. And that's something we can probably expect, and then some, with Starship in, say, 4 years, 5 years' time. So it's exciting times, and that's why I get encouraged when I see all these ships ready to go. It's a cool thing. Alex, where are we standing?
I think that was when they did something along the lines of like 200 flights or something, and they did that sort of what you mentioned, like that video showing all of the launches and landings and things like that. They're almost close to 300 now, because they have done almost 100 launches this year. So ever since then, there's been a lot more launches. But yeah, right now we're sort of waiting what we see from Ship 28 in the next few minutes, because it looks like we might be towards the end of the count of today's tests, based on the header tank venting and things like that. So yeah, we're just trying to see what else happens here.
I always like to bandicam off the stream the events such as prop load and things like whatever might be tested on today, like static fires, things like that. And my fear is bandicamming me talking while it's happening, because I don't like hearing my own voice. So I'm going to be very careful to try and avoid talking over the point where it does do something. If it does something. Either way, today's been an interesting test. It's the first test of Ship 28 at the launch site, as technically part of the IFT-3 launch flow. So this is great news. Whatever happens today is a sign of progress of SpaceX moving towards the 3rd flight of Starship. So we're getting there, and it's great, because the good news is that Booster 10 isn't waiting for some massive pad repair. This has all been pretty much gone very well with the last flight. The launch site has survived very well, and there's every chance that we might see Booster 10 roll out. In fact, I'll ask the question, and by all means interrupt if we see anything happen, but when do we think Booster 10 will roll out? Ryan first.
It'll be as early as next week.
Alex, what do you think? Do you think they'll stop for Christmas, or do you think they'll keep going?
Oh, I think they're gonna keep going. Maybe 1 day of rest, if anything, and then they're gonna keep going. I
Full
think,
send.
yeah, full send. But I think it's gonna be before the end of the year, in the next couple of weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Good question from Expert, who asks, when would we're thinking real future now? When would SpaceX attempt a booster catch? How many flights until a ship catch? Also, love the coverage. Well, thank you for your question and your support. And yeah, that's a big question because people do ask about the catches. What do we think, Ryan?
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
I don't know. If I'm going to be entirely honest on that one. Booster, they're going to want to try landing on a pinpoint location in the Gulf for a couple times. Then they'll try catching. Who knows how far down that's going to be. Ship. I don't expect to try on a ship catch till like late 25, 26 or later. It's going to be a while.
What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, 2025 is probably gonna be when we see a catch.
The fun thing is, that's a great point by Ryan, by the way. The first thing they'll do with boosters is very much like with the Falcon 9. They originally didn't want to risk the drone ships, and they went for pinpoint water landings. That basically denotes they've got the accuracy rate of the return, because it's a difficult thing to do. Then they brought them back to the drone ships, but of course a lot of them crashed into the drone ship, and a lot, but they could do that. It's a different story with the launch site. They don't want to have boosters returning and crashed into.
And
that looked like a spin prime test.
Yeah, it did.
Alright. Spin prime.
Let me record that bit and put it on. So of course, it will be my voice talking. Oh my god.
There we go.
Well done, Alex. You well spotted. Because I was too busy reading the question at the same time. So that's a good sign. That's a spin prime test, I do believe. We can confirm it's a spin prime, can't we?
Yeah, it's a spin
I
prime.
saw it.
Yeah.
Alright.
Don't know how many engines. It'll be hard to. Let's try to slow it down and see. But could have been all 6. Could have been 1 or 2. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to tell right off the bat.
There we go.
It's interesting because I think I saw some kind of water underneath of the pad, because one of the things that I was hearing before the test was like some kind of a stream of something, and then I saw the spin prime happening, which is interesting.
Well, there we go. They have rolled out Ship 28, and a few days later, they've got it on Pad B doing a spin prime test. That's a good sign. Now, the next question is, what happens next? There's head tank venting, by the way. Static fire test, would we say?
Maybe Monday. We got 3 closures coming up this week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 12 hours. They could do another spin prime or go straight into static fire. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if they finished all of 28's testing by the end of this week, and it's ready to go. And all they got to do is finish the tiles, take the crane lift points off, and put the livery on, and send it on its way.
A mile-long stream. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.